From the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now, the latest news.
Kylie Conway has the latest news. The top headlines. News you can use.
Please stand by.
Sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling. Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Tuesday, February 9th. We're going to dry out today and see some sunshine, but we are staying cold. Highs top out in the mid-20s to low 30s, with even colder air on its way to us as we move throughout the week and throughout the weekend. 2 people are dead and another is in critical condition after 3 shootings overnight. The most recent happened around 1 this morning on Westbrook Avenue. That's just south of Sam Jones Expressway. Officers tell us the victim was found in the back of a house. Just after midnight, police say a man was shot in the chest after some sort of altercation. This happened on Wildflower Circle south of West 59th Street. That man is at the hospital in critical condition. And the first of these shootings happened around 9:30 last night. A woman was shot and killed in a car with a child inside. The woman was the passenger. The driver and the child were not hurt. So far, police have not given us any information as far as who they may be looking for in any of these shootings. And now to Washington. Today on Capitol Hill, a question of constitutionality. This afternoon, former President Trump's second impeachment trial gets underway in the Senate. It will begin with a debate and a vote on whether it's constitutional to prosecute the former president. That just needs a simple majority vote. Then opening arguments would begin tomorrow. House impeachment managers and Trump's attorneys will have up to 16 hours to present their cases after Senate leaders agreed to the structure and rules of the trial.
It will give senators as jurors ample time to review the case and the arguments that each side will present.
All parties have agreed to a structure that will ensure a fair and honest Senate impeachment trial of the former president.
In a legal brief filed ahead of today's trial, Trump's legal team argued the House's effort is constitutionally deficient and cannot result in his conviction. David Schoen and Bruce Castor called it an act of political theater. As for the House managers, they'll focus in on video from the insurrection on January 6th and the former president's own words.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Trump's lawyers say that speech is protected by the First Amendment. Impeachment managers say while in office, President Trump abused his power.
We have an obligation here to the American people. We have an obligation to address the white nationalism and the white supremacy that has been swept under the rug for too long in American history, to address this and address it head on.
The trial is expected to continue through the weekend. And what impact will the impeachment have here at home? It's the first time the president has been impeached twice, and that the trial in the Senate is happening after the president is out of office. But there's also the charge, incitement of an insurrection, that's historic too. The question remains, what does this trial mean for most Americans? News 8's Hannah Mordeau spoke to a local political science expert to break it down.
The Capitol riot is still raw. Now the people closest to the action will once again be at the Capitol in the action. And the rest of us?
There is a bit of an opportunity cost here for everyday Americans.
Stephen Webster is an assistant professor of political science at IU and says the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump will impact every American.
Every second, every minute that the Senate spends on the impeachment trial is a second or a minute that they're not spending on passing legislation.
That includes a potential COVID-19 relief bill or approving President Joe Biden's cabinet. But Democrats argue leaders' actions have consequences.
One of accountability. If inciting an insurrection on the United States Capitol is not an impeachable offense, one that is worthy of conviction, then simply nothing is.
Democrats need 17 Republicans to vote for a conviction. That's not likely to happen. Trump's legal team is expected to argue that the former president is protected by the First Amendment, and Republicans
that because Donald Trump is no longer president, it doesn't make sense for the Senate to go ahead with this impeachment trial.
Webster says the Senate can make its own rules, and remember, Trump was president when impeached in the House. But with a new administration in power, should people listen?
I think people should pay attention, if for no other reason than the fact that this is historic. It's historic because Donald Trump is being impeached for the second time. It's historic because the last time the U.S. Capitol was sieged was during the War of 1812.
Well, it's not clear how long the trial will last. Political experts agree on this.
The Senate needs to demonstrate that this sort of behavior from our chief executive, regardless of the political party, is simply not acceptable.
The trial starts at 1 this afternoon. Webster says the goal will be to have the trial in the mornings and then other legislative work take place in the evenings. And this morning, security is heightened around the Capitol in case of any violence. National Guard members are still patrolling the area. There's also an 8-foot non-scalable fence that is topped with razor wire. All of the House impeachment managers have security detail. Lawmakers are divided on the details of President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. Democrats in the House and Senate are debating the president's minimum wage increase. Biden wants to raise the minimum wage gradually to $15 an hour through 2025. The president has hinted that the increase may not make it into the final version of the American Rescue Plan, though. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is one lawmaker supporting the change.
I can tell you, as chairman of the Budget Committee, we have a room full of lawyers working as hard as we can to make the case to the parliamentarian that, in fact, raising the minimum wage will have significant budget implications.
House Democrats are also working on adding a proposal to the bill that would boost the child tax credit to at least $3,000 per child. And a new report by the Congressional Budget Office says President Biden's plan to raise the minimum wage would reduce poverty, but also put 1.4 million people out of work. The minimum wage hasn't increased since 2009. It still sits at $7.25 an hour. Democrats have wanted to raise it for years. And the report says the move would reduce the number of people in poverty by 900,000. This would result in lower spending on food stamps and child nutrition programs. However, spending on Medicaid and unemployment benefits would skyrocket. There would be higher enrollment due to the loss of jobs, plus spending on Medicaid and Medicare would increase. The report says that's because many home health and nursing care workers make less than $15 an hour. Also, the cost of goods and services would go up, specifically at restaurants, as well as a slight increase in interest rates. Democratic leaders are wanting to pass President Biden's pandemic relief package, which includes the increase in that minimum wage through reconciliation. And that process only requires a majority of votes. And there are growing concerns that recovering from COVID-19 may not protect former patients from getting the virus again with a variant. A vaccine study in South Africa found new variant infections in 2% of people who previously had had the virus. The mutation is also causing more than 90% of new cases in South Africa. New data also shows a variant found in the UK spreads up to 45% faster than other strains. It may also be less responsive to the vaccines. And today is day one of a 2-week quarantine for Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. This comes after a member of his security detail tested positive for COVID-19. The Department of Transportation Chief of Staff says Buttigieg tested negative yesterday and is not showing any symptoms. He already received his first dose of the vaccine, and he'll get his second dose when he finishes a 2-week quarantine. A local coalition is working to ease vaccine worries in minority communities as the Red Cross urges people across the state to get the shot. It's made up of 37 members from community partners, churches to nonprofits. They're going into Black and Latinx communities that have been disproportionately affected by the virus. The coalition says hesitancy is rooted in systemic oppression and injustice, specifically within the Black community. The coalition helped Jim and Mary Hester, who both just received their second dose, and they also say it was quick and painless.
About something that is available to you, and it's free. That's the other thing. This thing is free. It's free.
I hear so many people say, well, I don't know what's in it. Well, the great comedian Chris Rock said, you get a headache, you take an Advil. He said, I don't know what's in it, but I feel better.
The coalition says their intention is to allow people to feel heard and to not shame anyone about their opinions, as well as providing them information on the vaccine using trusted sources. More than 9.5 million people are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 in the United States. That's according to the CDC's COVID data tracker. More than 32 million people have received at least one dose. The agency's website offers two maps, one showing totals, one showing the rate in each state. The totals track closely with population. Places with more people have naturally gotten and given more vaccines. New York, Florida, Texas, California, and Indiana appears to be lagging right now. A switch to the rate view is a clearer picture. Indiana is doing as well as or better than many states. In Indiana, the state health department's vaccine dashboard reports more than 223,000 people are fully vaccinated. More than 699,000 people have received their first dose.
Searching for a romantic summer getaway? Escape with Rich Girl Summer, the new Audible original from Lily Chu. The exquisitely talented Philippa Sue, returning to narrate her 5th Lily Chu title. This time, Philippa is joined by her real-life husband, Stephen Pasquale. Set in Toronto's wealthy cottage country, aka the Hamptons of Canada, Rich Girl Summer follows the story of Valerie, a down-on-her-luck event planner posing as a socialite's long-lost daughter, while piecing together the secrets surrounding a mysterious family and falling deeper and deeper in love with the impossibly hard-to-read and infuriatingly handsome family assistant, Nico. Caught between pretending to belong and unexpectedly finding where she truly fits in, Valerie learns her summer is about to get far more complicated than she ever planned. She's in over her head and head over heels. Listen to Rich Girl Summer now on Audible. Go to audible.com/richgirlsummer.
Health officials in Hamilton County are making plans to vaccinate school staff. They're trying to get organized despite not knowing when educators will be deemed eligible for the shot. Leaders say the top priority is to not interrupt classes. Officials with the Fishers and Hamilton County Health Departments are weighing school schedules and vaccine supply in developing the process.
Carmel Clay schools would go through 2 weeks worth of vaccine just to do their school district.
Most of the kids are virtual on Fridays. That would allow us a day where we could potentially get a large number of school staff vaccinated, and it would also allow them an additional 2 days for recovery.
Governor Holcomb answered questions about vaccinating teachers during his coronavirus briefing last week. He did not say when teachers would qualify to get vaccines. And we could get more answers today about the helicopter crash that killed NBA star Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 others. Federal safety officials are set to share a probable cause for the crash in a report. The report will also detail safety recommendations from the NTSB on how to prevent similar crashes in the future. One of those recommendations could be for helicopters to have terrain awareness and warning systems, something Bryant's helicopter did not have. Since the NTSB can only suggest actions, it would then be up to the FAA to implement new rules. Indiana's General Assembly is one step closer to changing control over landlord-tenant issues. The state's Senate voted to overturn the governor's veto of a bill to block cities from regulating rental properties. Newsay's Dan Klein says there's opposition on both sides of the aisle here.
The Republican governor, along with a few Republican senators and Democrats in the chamber as well. This is all about Senate Bill 148, which the governor vetoed last year. The bill was passed just months after Indianapolis passed an ordinance forcing landlords to give a bill of rights to their tenants. I talked to Grant Anderson, a landlord with about 20 rental homes in central Indiana. He says while it would be nice to have one set of rules statewide, this issue is not all that important to him as long as cities don't start passing rules that would limit, for instance, his ability to raise rent or rules that would increase his fees on evicting a tenant. He's more focused on the current moratorium in place. Meanwhile, tenant advocates side with the governor and strongly oppose the Senate's veto override Monday. They're worried the bill could have some far-reaching consequences and keep cities from taking basic actions to protect its citizens who rent.
I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Instead of the city saying, hey, do this, it should be the state doing it and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do as a state.
There is no friendly tenant provisions within these bills at all. Could it enforce a landlord sexually harassing a female tenant under its human rights and human relations ordinance? All of that is up in the air.
Senate President Pro Tem Roderick Bray declined to be interviewed on this story and issued a statement. It's now up to the Indiana House to either override the veto or let it stand. They have until the end of session to decide. I'm Dan Klein for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and be sure to follow us on Facebook.
Several officials have issued statements since the vote saying they oppose the move. That includes Mayor Joe Hogsett. Those statements you can find right now on our website, wishtv.com. The Indiana man charged in the cruise ship death of his 18-month-old granddaughter will get 3 years of probation. The Puerto Rican government announced Salvatore Anello's sentence. Chloe Wiegand fell from an open window on a Royal Caribbean ship while on vacation from South Bend. Her grandfather says he didn't know the window was open when he lifted the child up to touch the glass. The child's parents are suing Royal Caribbean in a civil case. The FBI is trying to find out who tried to poison a city's water supply in Florida. Officials say it happened outside of Tampa in Oldsmar. According to officials, the hacker was able to access the water treatment center's computer system. They then adjusted the level of sodium hydroxide to a dangerous level. Sodium hydroxide is the main ingredient in a liquid drain cleaner. An operator was able to immediately step in before anything could happen. It is unknown if the breach originated locally, nationally, or outside of the country. An Indianapolis doctor is getting national attention for his part in a clinical trial to bring a first-of-its-kind treatment to patients with pulmonary hypertension. It's a disease that affects both the lungs and heart. Now, a patient who was part of that study says not only did the treatment save her life, it could help thousands of COVID-19 patients. Angelique Hockaday reports.
Exactly right. Good morning. Dr. Ravichandran wasn't predicting the future when he first joined a clinical trial for a new way to treat pulmonary hypertension, a disease that affects both the lungs and heart. Now, a patient part of that study says not only did it save her life, the doctor says it could help save thousands of COVID-19 patients.
I just could not catch a breath, and it's scary.
That sense of fear becoming all too familiar for a once active Gloria Mount.
If I was going to clean the living room, I'd maybe be able to dust one table.
She says the exhaustion of doing small things, making the bed, grocery shopping, or even walking.
I'm just constantly going like this,
started to have a negative impact on her life.
And the treatments they gave me had not had any effect.
A chance introduction to Dr. Ravichandran at Ascension St. Vincent in Indianapolis changed that. He was recruiting for a clinical trial to study the impact of inhaled treprostinil to treat pulmonary hypertension. And Gloria checked off all the boxes.
So scarring of the lungs, causing really high pressures in her lungs, causing the right side of her heart to fail.
In other words, all things that can lead to pulmonary hypertension,
which is a fancy term for high blood pressures in the lungs.
The hospital was one of 40 centers part of the trial, but made up nearly 4% of participants.
We have a lot of rural areas where there's a lot of farming going on, so is there some sort of chemical or dust exposure that may have happened throughout one's life?
Dr. Ravichandran says scarring of the lungs sounds like taking off a Velcro strap. His goal? Similar to putting it back together.
Do things with my grandkids, go to some of their games if we're allowed to.
You could walk 4 times the distance you could at the beginning of the study.
And after 16 weeks, success for patients like Gloria, and now potentially thousands more.
So we've clearly seen a lot of patients that have scarring of their lungs that are residual from COVID. Could this type of patient be more common?
Dr. Ravichandran says data from the trial is now under review for FDA approval. The next phase of the study is to look at hospitalization and mortality rates and more research on the drug's effectiveness for COVID-19 patients. Soon, you'll be able to browse the stacks at Indianapolis Public Libraries again. The change happens Monday. It'll be the first time in months that all branches will be open for browsing and computer use. Service has largely been curbside since the fall. Face masks are required, and locations may impose a 1-hour time limit to manage capacity and make sure everyone can visit. Now to business headlines. Indianapolis and Fort Wayne got honorable mentions for most affordable places to live. Forbes put together a list of cities to gauge affordability, including the median income of that city, average home costs, and median real estate taxes. Detroit was named the most affordable housing market in the nation. Simon Property CEO is expecting this year to be better than last as some retailers start to think about opening new stores. However, CEO David Simon cautioned it's going to take some time to get back to the 2019 levels. He mentioned Florida as one example of a positive sign, saying business at its malls and outlet centers is clicking along, citing real domestic traffic increases. The new Fitbit app will let U.S. users log or automatically import blood glucose readings to let those with diabetes track key health information in one place. You can connect the One Touch Reveal app from LifeScan with support for other meters and apps coming soon. This information gets visualized and is shown alongside other metrics like physical activity, food, and sleep. Delta Airlines will continue to block out the middle seats on its aircraft through April, becoming the only major carrier to continue doing so. The airline will continue to create space between passengers while also limiting overall capacity on all of its flights to ensure customers can confidently plan and book their spring travel until at least April 30th. The first 3D printed house is for sale. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a 2-car garage. It's on Long Island. At $300,000, it's about half the normal cost of a house in the area and could help address affordability. And finally to sports. President Joe Biden says he will welcome 2 championship teams to the White House once it's safe. Biden is inviting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after Sunday's Super Bowl win. He also plans to welcome last season's NBA champs, the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have accepted the offer. Their biggest star, LeBron James, is a vocal critic of former President Trump and said the team would like to visit the White House during the Biden administration. Pacers assistant coach Bill Bayno has resigned from the team. Bayno says he's stepping away from the blue and gold because of personal and health reasons. He joined the Pacers staff in 2016 and was a holdover from former coach Nate McMillan's staff. Head coach Nate Bjorkgren says he wishes him the best as he transitions to his next chapter. Pacers forward Jakar Sampson used time away from the court to visit with patients at Peyton Manning Children's Hospital. Sampson did arts and crafts on video calls with kids. He says he had a great time with the visits. He does joke that his art project didn't go as well as he'd hoped. You should go online to see that video. It's pretty great. This has been your News 8 Daily for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
The News 8 Daily 8 is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.
Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast.
The News 8 Daily 8 with Kylie Conway. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.